Heyo, and welcome back in, you guys, to another Kagurabachi video. This time, we are here to yap about chapter 119. And of course, we're coming in a little bit earlier than usual. So if you do not want to get spoiled, this is your chance to click away now. Ooh, spoiler warning. So, getting right into things, we start things off with a shot of the dead Shokoku guy on the couch. And it's funny because last chapter we saw that his throat got slit, but even with that injury, pretty much nobody actually believed that he was dead. And that is because he showed crazy regenerative powers at the beginning of last week's chapter. They cut off his hand and boom, wouldn't you know it, he grew it back. So of course, the theory or the thought of him coming back from this neck wound was looking pretty damn plausible. So we start off on that ominous panel and then we get the backstory of the Mikaboshis. We see that the Mikaboshi king prayed so earnestly to the Datenseki, to the Or, to save his people from this catastrophe. We learn that the Mikaboshi once ruled Japan, but of course the Soga clansmen rebelled and drove them underground. The Datenseki actually responded to the Mikaboshi king's earnest wishes and granted them the power to survive throughout the ages. And I will admit, a lot of pages out of this chapter, a lot of these panels look pretty damn creepy. They look ominous as hell. Whenever we see the Mikaboshi clansmen in this giant cave all together, it's like I'm witnessing a cult meeting, brother. So, of course, we see that the Mikaboshi clan does sink into the water. The stone helps them survive, and over the course of 1,000 years, they did gather their power, garner their forces, and now they're back with vengeance. One key note to take away from the beginning of this chapter is that the Mikaboshi clan doesn't just dislike the Soga clan, but they actually view everybody that prospers under the Soga clan to be their enemies as well. They got a lot of ops, man. Pretty much the entirety of Japan is the opposition here. We then cut back to present day, and the old guy who has been floating on the beach finally speaks. He says, "You, damn you, you are a Soga clansman, aren't ya?" And the person he's talking about is, of course, my favorite character in this arc right now, Hiroto Soga. Hiroto responds to the old man saying, "Hey, so what if I am? What are you gonna do about it?" He didn't say the last part, I added it in. Flavor text, that's what it is. And it's kind of funny that he singles out Hiroto. I'm assuming it's because he is the one who sliced his son's neck. But it's like, yo, Yoshinojo, the big dude with the mustache, he's also a Soga clansman too. Old guy here finally does give us the name of the guy on the couch. He says, "The person whose throat you just slit is actually my son. He is a prince of the Mikaboshi. His name, I believe, I'm gonna butcher it. It's Ariu? Ariu. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. My Japanese pronunciation isn't that great to begin with, and now we're bringing in a name that I haven't really seen all too often, so yeah, I'm gonna butcher it. We learn that Ariu isn't just a prince of the Mikaboshi, he is the first prince of the Mikaboshi, which I do wonder how that works. Because he's the first prince, is he the strongest out of all of them? Is he next in line? Who is the king even? Which is a question that we throw at the old man. They're like, hey, if he is the first prince, then you're the king, right? The old guy actually responds and he says, "Hey, I got nothing to say to you." And that is when we see it, man. Mashiro turns his attention to the guy on the couch, our Japanese representative, who was just alive last page, and he's bleeding out of his eyes. He is dead. Well, we don't know if he's dead, but I'm assuming he's dead, right? He was just a regular dude. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he's cooked. The old man says that he's not really here to talk. He is simply here to bear witness. Aura. I don't know what it is. There's something about the subtlety of those words that I'm like, whoa, a chill just went down my spine. So right after he says that, the next thing we see is that Mashiro is now missing a part of his stomach. Yeah. At first, I thought they simply, ripped off his clothes. They simply punched him so fast his shirt ripped. But upon further inspection, no. His guts are literally missing. This dude Arui just punched a hole through Mashiro. What? And it's pretty crazy too, because the thing is, Mashiro has no beef with this guy. I thought that he would immediately go for, I don't know, Hiroto Soga, the guy who chopped his neck to begin with, the guy who chopped off his fingers, maybe the other Soga clansman. But nope, he went for poor Mashiro here because it seems like he was simply the closest guy in vicinity. So, Mashiro surprisingly tanks this blow, and he reacts to it. Even though he's missing a chunk out of his body, he does start throwing down the gravity waves, trying to hold this guy in place, and that is when all the Japanese soldiers, Shiba, Yoshinojo, and Hirota, attack him all at once. But Arui is showing us what the first prince of the Mikaboshi is made out of, because he's able to move under all of this gravity, and he blocks every single attack sent his way. These guys are broken, man. That Datenseki is cracked. Shiba comes in with the quick thinking, and he teleports himself, Yoshinojo, Hiroto, and Prince Aui out to the middle of the forest, and he tells Mashiro to simply rest up. Crazy that this is the plan. At first, I was like, oh yeah, that's great. You know, Mashiro can rest up a little bit. I don't know if he has healing magic, but maybe he'll be fine. But then I thought about it, and I was like, wait a minute. They left Mashiro here with the old guy. You know, the old guy who is probably much stronger than the prince they're fighting. Yeah, I do not feel good about leaving Mashiro there. And plus, we've seen firsthand that the Mikaboshi can regenerate. And guess who Mashiro is nearby? Not just the old guy, but the corpses of the Mikaboshi dudes they slaughtered last chapter. Hell, they're even talking in this chapter. I have a bad feeling that when we come back to Mashiro, he might be dead. You know, maybe that's just me being pessimistic. You know, the old guy, maybe he really meant it, that he just came to bear witness. He's not here to fight. But I just feel like Mashiro is not in for a good time. If he even survives the initial wound, right? I mean, that right there is a death blow to most people. But of course, in the world of Shonen, he might be okay if he takes no further damage. So we now cut on over to the forest battle, and we see that one of my favorite characters, Hiroto Soga, unleashes a pretty cool ability. Kurotsuchi is the Japanese name here, and we see that Prince Aui, when he lands on the ground, he starts sinking into it. And apparently, this ability is called Yo Jutsu. I believe that's the translation here. We learn that this ability is passed down from Soga clansman to Soga clansman, but even still, it is very hard to master. And it manifests in the form of a black ball behind Hiroto. And we learn that the OG Soga clansman that sunk the king of the Mikaboshi used this same ability. And here, we actually get our first real shot of what Ukita looks like. Because beforehand, we've been getting, you know, the classic Japanese style drawings of him, but in that panel, where we see that he's sinking the king of the Mikaboshi, you see like the real version of him. And I have a feeling he's gonna look a lot cooler than what we've been seeing in those Japanese paintings. So we go on to the next page, and we get the narrator box kicking in, and it does list Hiroto Soga as the sole living user of the Kurotsuchi ability. And it's so crazy, because like we're going through this chapter, and it's like, okay, the Soga clan and the Mikaboshi clan, they're getting a lot of hype, right? What about Yoshinojo? Like, dude, we have another Soga clansman in the back burner, and he hasn't really done much. Like, what do you mean he doesn't have Kurotsuchi? I don't know, man. Maybe he's just like the one guy out of the Soga clan that just really specializes in something else. Like, he's just a brute force guy. That could just be me stereotyping him because he's bigger and, you know, built well. But I don't know, man. You know, they're just hyping the hell out of Hiroto, and I love it as a Hiroto fan. But it's like, yo, what about Yoshinojo? Yo, what about this guy over here, man? But yeah, getting back to it, we see that Prince Aui is sinking deeper and deeper into the ground. We then cut back over to Mashiro, and like I said earlier, the guys we killed last chapter are not actually dead. In fact, they're chanting very ominously. Like I said, this is an ominous chapter. So the words they say, we must not starve, we must not hand the stone over to our enemy. They repeat this over and over and over, and we get a glimpse into the Mikaboshi lifestyle. And like I said earlier, they are very cult-like. First couple of shots we get are, of course, of a baby and the mother, I'm assuming. They're wearing white cloaks. We see a bunch of poisonous-venomous insects, and then we get good old Prince Aui walking through the masses. And while he's walking through, you see people throwing his hands to him, you know, trying to pray. It reminds me of that scene out of Superman, where he's walking down the street and everybody's like, oh, Superman, please, please save us, thank you. Yeah, it is crazy, man. So Prince Aui arrives at the center of the cult, and all those bugs we saw a second ago then get mashed up into black liquid. He drinks the black liquid, and then we see that this weird shadow manifestation thing starts popping out from around his neck. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine as to what the hell is going on here. He then floats up to the core of the Datenseki alongside the 5 other princes, is what I want to call them. You know, we don't really know if they're princes or not, but because he's the first prince, I like to imagine we're seeing the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th here. And we learn that each of these guys have been blessed with the original Mikaboshi King's powers. They've all inherited something from him. And the power that Ariu inherited is actually called Nest, depending on the translation you read. And this power is what allowed them to survive for all these years. That's my assumption. I could be slightly wrong when I say that, but the way it's framed, it does make it seem like the power that helped them survive is the same power that he's using at the end of this chapter, and it's reconstructing the ground. He jumps on out of it, he floats up, and we see something very familiar around him. He has centipede. But instead of it being black, like the way, you know, Hiroto Soga uses it, Prince Aui's version is white. Yeah, I think the slaughter is about to begin. Oh, good stuff, brother. This is a crazy chapter. I genuinely was not expecting the Mikaboshi clan to be this cult-like, you know? Is this how all the Shokoku live? Because last chapter, they did ask that, right? Mashiro was like, yo, are all of the Shokoku civilians this hostile? Are they all this strong? We don't really know. But here in this chapter, we see that at least the Mikaboshi clan that live on the island, they're pretty crazy, brother. They are nuts. But yeah, I think next chapter, the good times are going to come to an end, and Prince Aui is going to frickin' go 1v3. I am still excited. You know, I feel like I'm the only person who's really been talking about him, but I'm still looking forward to Yoshinojo jumping into the fight at some point. You know, because Hiroto can only do so much, brother. But that is for this week's chapter, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below. I thought it was phenomenal. Dude, Hokuzono is freaking cooking week after week. And I do mean this sincerely, but Kagurabachi is skyrocketing on my list of favorite freaking mangas. And I do think that an anime is on the way. A lot of newer Shonen Jump series are getting animes left and right. I think it is about time for Kagurabachi's anime to get announced. It's pretty much all but confirmed. The rumor mill has been spinning heavily towards Kagurabachi's favor. When I went to Japan last week, I saw a lot of Kagurabachi merch at the Jump store. I think it's in the cards. But yeah, let me know your thoughts again down below. If I made any mistakes in this video, I apologize. Like I said, while I love Kagurabachi, I am still very new to talking about it. But as these videos go on, the more polished I will be. And of course, I appreciate you guys for joining me on this journey.